Hi, everyone. Okay, so today we're going to start our last lesson for Unit 2, which is on word problems. So we are making equations for each one of our word problems that is in y equals mx plus b form. So we've been solving all of these equations all unit long, and now we're going to write them for the problem and solve them. So this is the general format that you're going to see every time you write an equation. And we're going to have this, each part kind of explained right now. So y will always be your total amount because it's obviously going to be your answer. Okay. M is what we call slope. But for you guys, I want you to think about it being something that happens over and over again. It's repeated. It's being multiplied. Just something that can constantly happen more than one time. Okay, so be thinking about what part of the problem is happening over and over again. X is going to be our variable that we're looking for each time. So that will stay in X. And B is going to be, if you guys remember from last year, our y-intercept, which we'll talk about that a lot later on. But for you guys, we're talking about something that only happens one time, or our starting amount, where they start from, the initial amount, sometimes it's called. So I want you to be thinking about numbers that happen one time and numbers that happen over and over again, okay? Some of them will be one step, some of them will be two step, but you need to be writing an equation for every single problem, okay? All right, meaning you have to have a variable in there. Okay, so let's get started. An airplane was cruising at an altitude, then descended 2,000 feet. If the airplane is at 18,000 feet now, what was the cruising altitude? So when I do word problems, I like to start and do one thing at a time and figure out what part of the equation that is. So if I read this again, an airplane was cruising at an altitude. Okay, at an altitude. They don't tell us what it is. So if they don't tell us what something is in math, that's when we use our variable. So the plane was cruising along at some altitude. We're going to call that x. Then it descended 2,000 feet. Okay, well, descended would mean that it went down 2,000 feet. And in order to get a number smaller in math, we subtract. So I know that this has to be minus 2,000. If the airplane is at 18,000 feet now, okay, well, if it's there now, that's our equals. 18,000 would be where it's at, okay? Now we just solve. So this is a one step, super easy. It's subtraction, so I'm going to do addition. So I'm going to add 18,000 to 2,000, and x equals 20,000. And we're going to put feet as a label because this is a word problem. Okay? All right, let's go to the next one. Again, thinking about which each part is as you write it down. You are working on a banner for Friday's pep rally. The length of the banner is 3 times the width. The length is 15 feet. What is the width? Okay, so let's read it again. The length of the banner. Okay, well, do they tell us the length? Yes, they do. The length is 15 feet. So I'm going to start with 15. Is. Well, is in math, you guys, means equals. Like if I said 2 plus 2 is 4, is taking the place of that equal sign. So the length of the banner is, okay, so it's equal to 3, so I'm just going to put a 3, times the width. Okay, 3 times the width. Well, I would normally put times or parentheses, right? And put the width, but they don't tell us the width. So again, if we don't know it, we have to put a variable. So I'm going to put a W. So if you wanted to write it, you wouldn't even have to use parentheses. 15 equals 3W. One step, this is multiply, so we divide. Width equals 5. And again, it's a label of feet. Okay? Next one. The band needs to buy new equipment. The equipment will cost $3,000. The band has collected $1,200 in a previous fundraiser. If the band sells sandwiches at $5 each, how many sandwiches will they need to sell to raise the remaining funds? Okay, let's go back again. The band needs to buy new equipment. The equipment will cost $3,000. Okay, so the total of the cost will be $3,000. So here's our 3,000 equals. That's our total, right? Now, the band has collected $1,200 in a previous fundraiser. Okay, so that's the thing they've done one time already, right? They're also selling sandwiches at $5 each. Okay, so every time they sell a sandwich, they're getting $5. And notice that they're probably not just selling one. It's happening over and over and over again. So this guy, this each, every, per, happening over and over again is going to be our slope, our X number, okay? So I'm going to add on to this $1,200 they already have, $5 for every sandwich. Okay, so here's our total. Here's our one-time amount. And here's our slope that's happening over and over again. Okay, now we just need to solve. So 1,200 is positive. I'm going to subtract it. These are gone. Okay. So we get 1,800 equals 5x. One more step, divide by 5. Okay, 1,800 divided by 5 gives us 360 equals x. Now, we got to think about what x was when we were up here. So $5 each, right? We're looking for how many sandwiches. So the band needs to sell 360 sandwiches to be able to raise the remaining money that they need. All right. Okay, let's go to the next one. Doing great. So the YMCA offers yoga classes for $10 per class and sells yoga mats for $19.95. A person paid a total of $139.50 to the YMCA for yoga classes and a mat. Find the number of yoga classes the person took. Okay, again, let's go back. The person or the YMCA offers yoga classes for $10 per class. Okay, well, you're probably going to go to more than one class. So that's going to be our number that happens over and over again. And it makes more sense when you keep reading and see that yoga mats are $19.95. And you know you're not going to need more than one yoga mat. So that's going to be our one-time amount. And the 10 is going to happen over and over again. A person paid a total of $139.50. So it tells you there that that is your total. And now we just need to solve for x. Okay? So subtract $19.95 from both sides. So we have 10x equals 119.55. Divide by 10. and x equals 11.955. Okay, so this says find the number of yoga classes the person took. It's kind of a weird number for a number of yoga classes, right? You wouldn't take 11.955. So you have to think about this for a second. If I can only afford 11.955 classes, I can't round up because they won't let me stay for 12 if I can't pay for it. So in this case, they can pay for 11 yoga classes and buy their mat. Okay? All right. 2 more here. The Spanish Club is arranging a trip to a Mexican restaurant in a nearby city. Those who go must share the $119 cost of using a school bus for the trip. The restaurant's buffet costs $9 per person. How many students must sign up for this trip in order to limit the cost to $16 per person? Okay, so this one's a little bit different because we're going to be comparing. So, those who go must share the $119 cost of using a school bus for the trip. Okay, well, they're only going to pay that amount one time. So the $119 happens once. Plus, they have to pay for their food. Well, the cost is $9 per person. Well, that's going to happen over and over again because there's more than one person going. So this would be your 9x. Now, here's the tricky part. Equals, we don't really have a total, but we want to limit the cost to $16 per person. Okay, well, again, this is going to happen over and over again because it's for every person that is there. So we want this to be the same as paying $16 per person. Here's your variables on both sides. Okay, now we just have to solve. So subtract 9x from both sides. We have 119 equals 7x. Divide by 7, and x equals 17. So how many students must sign up for the trip to limit the cost? 17 students need to go. Okay, so when we do variables on both sides, we're comparing two things. Okay, and there's no actual total amount. That's when we know variables have to be on both sides. All right, so knowing that, let's look at the next one. A car dealership sold 78 new cars and 64 used cars this year. The number of new cars sold by the dealership has been increasing by 4 cars each year. The number of used cars sold by the dealership has been decreasing by 3 cars each year. If these trends continue, in how many years will the number of new cars sold be twice the number of used cars sold? Okay, a little bit trickier, all right? So we are comparing in this one again, and we want to know when new versus used, right? Now it says, in how many years will the number of new cars sold be twice the number of used cars sold? So I know that anything I do, I'm going to have to take this side times 2 because I want this side to be equal to 2 times as much. Okay, so let's go back. A car dealership sold 78 new cars, so 78 new, and 64 used, so 64. The number of new cars sold by the dealership has been increasing by 4 cars each year. Okay, so increasing means add. For each year means it's happening over and over again, so there's my x. The number of used cars sold by the dealership has been decreasing by 3 cars each year. Decreasing means it's going down, and it's 3x. If these trends continue, in how many years will the number of new be twice the number of used? Okay, so let's figure this out. This side isn't going to move. 78 plus 4x doesn't have anything to combine. And I'm going to multiply this one. So 2 times 64 would be 128. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6x. Okay. I'm going to move my x, so add 6x to this side. That gives me 78 plus 10x equals 128. Subtract 78 from both sides, and we get 10x equals 50. Divide by 10, and x equals 5. In how many years will it happen? So in 5 years, the number of new cars will be twice as many as the used.